Well, I must tell you, my opinion of the Prime Minister has not particularly increased today. Here he was on GB News at 6 o'clock this morning.
Returns agreement with France is important because we need to establish that if you come by boat, you will be returned to France. I accept the numbers are low. We had to prove the concept and prove that it could work. We've now done that, but now we need to ramp that up. I would gently point out to Nigel Farage and others that before we left the EU, we had a returns agreement with every country in the EU. And he told the country, make no difference if we left. But he was wrong about that. These are Farage boats in many senses that are coming across the channel.
So here he is, once again, inverting the truth, gaslighting the British public, attempting to blame everything on me. Yes, I am the devil, the Farage boats. Well, Prime Minister, have a quick look at this. Here's me in May 2020.
So here we are, middle of the English Channel. We're right on the edge of British and French territorial waters. It's a pretty calm day. Already there have been 3 migrant boats spotted. All of these are classed as search and rescue missions. But the truth of it is, this is a massive criminal enterprise that is organising all of this, making vast sums of money. They're doing about 4.5 knots. We're doing about 11. As you can see, they're about 300 yards, so we're closing. We'll obviously slow down because the weight from this boat's quite big. You can see the boat's absolutely packed, all being charged a minimum of €5,000 each for the criminal gangs to make this crossing.
I did that in May 2020, Prime Minister, and I warned the entire British political establishment we had a major problem coming down the tracks. I also said to mainstream media, why are you not covering this? I predicted it would lead to an invasion. Of course, I was absolutely demonised for daring to say the word, but I would suggest 180,000 people later, perhaps I was right. But what the Prime Minister is talking about is the Dublin III regulation. This was the means by which, he argues, as EU members, we could send people back. Well, in that very year of 2020, have a look at this graph, we took more in from the European Union under this programme than we sent back. So I ask you at home, is the Prime Minister being deliberately dishonest? Please send in farage@gbnews.com. I can't bear it. Out Mehmet, chairman of Migration Watch, joins me, as does Kwasi Kwarteng and Baroness Diane Hayter. I mean, the Prime Minister did this. We saw Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats. I mean, I know they all want to rejoin the EU, but it's just, I mean, I'm right, aren't I? It's nonsense.
It's total nonsense, I'm afraid. The Dublin Agreement never worked. The whole thing was a shambles, as far as we were concerned. It took a hell of a long time to get people going in either direction. And as the figures have pointed out, the last couple of years, we had something like 3, 4, 5 times more coming towards us than going in the other direction. It just, I think that this is doing is actually hiding the truth. They know this to be the case. I believe that they're trying to hide the fact we've had over 57,000 come since the 4th of July last year. Now, what is that about? Why do they keep banging on? Is it because they want to hide the fact that legal migration is actually even worse, 10 times more? I don't know. I really don't know. I think that they're misleading the British people intentionally.
Well, I do too. Dan, I mean, clearly what the Prime Minister said is just not true.
Well, no, everything's your fault, one.
Everything's my fault.
Good, as long as we start by agreeing on that.
When the economy crashes, that'll be my fault. That's my fault.
I'm a good guy. Look, there are a number of things to say. One is, of course, these numbers are going up across the continent. There is an increased amount and people wanting to get out of the countries that they're living in at the moment, and this is happening, across the world. And the problem we've got is that the bit that is not enforced is that they're meant to, if they want asylum, not be economic migrants, they're meant to claim in the first safe country they arrive in. And unfortunately, all the steps they come to before us, and it'll be quite a few countries before they've got to before us, or even before France, are not doing their bit of the deal. But that's where I do think our good international relations is important. We should be working on this together. Yes, because this is a problem that is broader than just ours.
One of the reasons we voted Brexit.
The French have got a problem. The Germans have got a problem.
One of the reasons we voted Brexit was because of the idiotic statements by Angela Merkel in Germany, just welcoming millions to cross the Mediterranean. And we voted Brexit to avoid all of this. And yet we've got it, and we've got it in very, very serious numbers. One thing that is interesting, though, about people claiming asylum, what I'm told now is that quite a lot of EU countries are now kicking these people out, are just plain blank refusing them. And that's why the problems at Calais are potentially getting worse than they've been before.
Oh, they are getting worse, and they will get even worse. I agree that if we had the bottle, if we had the backbone, we could actually do a lot more than we are. Unfortunately, we don't. And we've been told very clearly any number of times that there is no question of leaving the ECHR, which we can quite easily do. It's nothing to do with going against international law. This is a convention that we've signed up to, and we can come out within 6 months given notice.
But on that, what's interesting is that two former Labour Home Secretaries, Jack Straw and David Blunkett, are in entire agreement with you. And these people weren't Tories. They were people who served at in the Home, as Home Secretary under Labour.
But and even amending it, not out of fully clear.
I think I'm not sure.
Because there are bits of it
they realise there's a problem.
Yes,
I mean, for the first time today, the Prime Minister did talk about the application.
Sure.
But I think that was more of a means of kicking it down the road. But my question is, when he tries to blame me for it, says because we were in the EU, we had this wonderful policy by which we actually took more than we sent the other way.
That's right.
He's just being dishonest.
But the numbers were very different from what they are.
He's being dishonest.
Well, that was over one. I think that was over just boats.
That was but the point that Nigel is making is right. The Dublin Accord or whatever it was, it never worked. So I don't understand what he's talking about. The other thing I think that's a bit naughty is that, look, he's had 15 months in government. When he came in, he said he had a plan, he was going to smash the gangs. And clearly that hasn't worked because the numbers have gone up. So when you've got a plan and the numbers go up, you start blaming other people. And that's clearly what's happened. I mean, it's very obvious to me that, his plan, whatever it is, just hasn't worked.
Well, he never said he was going to do it in a year.
He said he was going to smash the gangs, but they did nothing.
But not a year.
But they haven't even done anything.
Well, they have done quite a lot, as you know.
How have they smashed the gangs?
They've been working down the line, partly stopping them trying to get disposed in Germany and other things. These things, come on, it was your government that had this for years, and the idea that within a year you can,
but he had a plan.
He had a plan, but it wasn't for 1 year.
But he hasn't even done.
Well, he's done quite a bit of it.
Isn't the problem here? Smash the gangs. We've been hearing for decades, we're going to smash the drugs gangs. We're going to drive drugs off the streets of the United Kingdom. It hasn't happened. No. And frankly, the money involved is just so great that even if you put them all in prison for life, more people volunteer. And I sense it's the same with this. But another question. There must be, this issue hurt the Conservatives enormously. There must be a lot of Labour MPs. And we're seeing more and more hotels opening, not fewer, more and more hotels. The houses of multiple occupancy are opening up all over the country. Sure. There must be enormous pressure within the Labour Party on the Prime Minister to do more.
Well, of course there is. And what is happening is that the number of hotels, I'm not sure what you're saying, they're going up, but last I looked at, they're going down, and the numbers in them are going down. So maybe they're using small
They were much higher under the Conservatives with 18 months to go before the election.
But then they
went down. The number of hotels since Labour won the election is up a bit.
But they're now closing. But we can't close them without putting people somewhere else, and you've got to make sure that there is something else. I gather, we might be using pod tins or something like that. You can't literally just close a hotel and put people out on the street in tents. It has to be planned.
You can always deport them, couldn't you?
Well, you can, and we will be doing that, and we already have done. I think it was 36,000 went out just recently.
Yeah, but they are they're visa overstayers. It's slightly different.
But what we've got to do is get these through quickly. I think I've said on this programme before. We shouldn't be giving people the time to make a second appeal or to appeal and have an in-person hearing. There are things we can do to get it done quickly,
Well,
and then away.
But none of the policies are promoting what you say. I mean, the one in, one out. I mean, that got snared up in the courts on day one.
But we're trying it out, and I think it will work.
But one in, one out. Well, hang on, one in, one out means if one person comes to the country,
right.
they go back, another one comes. It's still +1, whichever way you cut it.
This is a way of working with the French to make sure we set up
Well, it's not working very well, is it?
Come on,
One in, one out. We're
What
still
people like
losing.
me said was that it would go to the courts and there would be a problem, and that's exactly what happened.
In your view, you've been studying this, you've worked professionally on this for years, you made the point about legal migration. We got the figures, didn't we? The 23-24 figures, population increase of another 750,000, 98% immigration.
Exactly.
Do we have any idea what legal immigration's running at now? Any clue at all?
The last we heard, it was 431,000 net migration a year. I suspect it may be a little more than that, but that's huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about now is not dealing with the problem, it's managing the problem. The government has said absolutely nothing about reducing net migration or indeed about dealing and stopping the illegal flow of people from across the channel. My own belief is that perhaps the government has actually given up on their usual normal voters, the Labour voters who would otherwise have voted for the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Are now turning to reform. That's what's bugging the government. If they can only deal with that by coming up with realistic policies.
But Starmer says, look, we've deported 36,000 people since we came to power, but they're not those crossing the channel, are they?
They're not those crossing. It's a fraction who are crossing the channel, and even then, it's people like Indians or whatever. It's the easy ones. They are not deterring anyone, and they're not sending anyone back or onward to the sort of countries where our courts say we can't send them back to.
Final thought on this from you, Alp. We've given the French, as I understand it, about £800 million since 2014. And, our viewers are very angry that the French don't do more. But the French say it's our fault. I have a funny feeling the French are right. In a way.
Unquestionably, we are a huge magnet for a lot of people. But the other problem, I think, is that the moment anyone says asylum, we pretty much accept their word for it,
right.
even though they haven't got anything to prove who they are, where they're from, and what their intentions are. That is wrong. That is dangerous.
Just the use of that word.
Yeah.